Hello DCS fans and welcome. You're watching Blacksharkden Squad channel and I am Bad CRC. Okay, today I would like to give you an overview of CombatFlite. It's a DCS flight planning software developed by Viper39, and let's call him Viper from now on. Viper was really kind enough to let Blacksharkden have a look at his creation, and he allowed me to give you guys this short demonstration. Alright, CombatFlite is what you're looking at now. It's the version 0.9.16, so it's a beta version. But according to Viper, it's likely to be the final version, or pretty close to the final version. Minus some of the missing elements today. You can see the NTTR, but what's missing is the Caucasus, Normandy, and Persian Gulf map. So I know Viper he's been telling me that he's working on adding those sectionals, and at least for the Caucasus, we'll see how it works for the release version. I'm running this version of CombatFlite on a fairly old computer. This one is i7 4790K, 16 gigs of RAM, GTX 780 Ti, and Windows 10. I tried it on a laptop, pretty high-end one, on a 7700K, 16 gigs of RAM, then a GTX 1060 6 gigs, and it doesn't work really faster or anything. So I mean, I didn't notice any significant difference. I had a try also with CombatFlite on my Surface Pro 4. It is slightly slower, but it's still running pretty fine, and it's very workable. So what it means, I believe, is that it's gonna work on pretty much any of your guys' computer. Anyway, it seems like Viper is working on optimizing the code before the release, so we might see some improvement here, although it's not a big deal. CombatFlite, it's a kind of software that was so badly needed by the DCS community. I just can't help wonder why it took all these years to have someone building this kind of utility. At some point I even thought it was just technically impossible, but here you are. CombatFlite, it's not a complicated software to use, but it's very advanced. Viper is actually an active duty guy, and my guess is that he must be doing this for a living, because it's really hard to find any missing feature here. I even been told that some of the pilots here at Blacksharkden who are also active duty, that's the features that you can find in CombatFlite were the kind of feature they wish they had in their real life flight planning software. So the overview today will focus here on helicopters operation, because that's what we're doing at Blacksharkden. So as such, I'm pretty clueless on anything that is flying higher than 1,000 feet and faster than 180 knots. And actually we are kind of feeling uneasy as soon as we're losing eye contact with the treetops. So I apologize for not showing some of the feature that the high and fast flyer might be interested in. Alright, let's start and have a look at the top menu here, and we obviously going to start with File. Some pretty classic stuff. You can change the theater, so as I mentioned in the introduction, we only have DCS Nevada, but everything is provisioned here: Normandy, Caucasus, and Persian Gulf. The classic stuff: new, open, save, and save as. And the interesting group here, you have import group functions and export group functions. The import one, so import a CF flight, so that's a proprietary format for CombatFlite, classic. The important thing here is you can import a Kmz file. So say if you already have a mission you build into the mission editor on DCS, and you already have flights and flight planning done and everything, you can import this Kmz file into CombatFlite, and you see everything that you've been working on in the mission editor displayed on CombatFlite. Almost everything. The import function actually allows you to import the flights, the engagement zone, the ground units, but again the ground units will show up as blue and red squares, so there won't be any characterization. You wouldn't know if it's a heavy tank or anything like this. You're importing the bullseyes, the nav points, and you're importing the briefing. If you already type some briefing into the Kmz file, then it will be imported also. an interesting thing here, you can import a Kmz file, Google Earth, and I know a few squads here are using Google Earth for flight planning, and they created some pretty extensive customized file for Google Earth to do this flight planning. And well, you guys will be able to import this Kmz file and have it display on CombatFlite. Fourth thing here, I'm not so familiar because I don't have the vegan module, but apparently it seems like the vegan can do I don't know how you call that, but an electronic intelligence mapping of the area. So I guess you're flying around and it detects the threats with the radar or anything else, and it creates a map and of electronic threats, and this file is actually can be imported into CombatFlite and displayed. Though I don't have this module, so I'm sorry, I won't be able to show you guys this kind of stuff. The export parts are really cool also. Obviously you can export the MIS file, so you can import your MIS file, modify it, and export it back into DCS. You can also, of course, starting from scratch into CombatFlite and export whatever flight planning you've been doing in CombatFlite as a MIS file into DCS. You can export a Lua, so that's more for mission builder here. And it's instead of having a MIS file, you can have a MIS file into the MIS file. So I don't know if it's clear, but you can actually save whatever flight planning you'll be doing as a Lua file and execute this into the mission editor as a script. So whoever is familiar with scripts and pretty good at mission editor will understand. Export Kmz, so yeah, you can import Google Earth file, but you can also export Google Earth file, which is pretty cool. And even cooler, you can export your flight plans in an XML format, which means and you can see that because it shows the icon shows the tag view icon. So whatever you've been doing on CombatFlite, you can export an XML and reopen this file in tag view. Now let's have a look at the mission tab. So a few things here. Coalitions is the usual thing where you can define who's blue, who's red, and I assume whatever country you're living in a standard will be considered as neutral, just as how it works in the mission editor. Briefing is a pre or something also. You can basically it's the same thing that what you have into the mission editor. You can write the situation, define blue task and red task. You even have a ramrod here field that you can customize if you are using this kind of stuff. You can add pictures through here, and I've been also told that there might be later on a way to change also the picture. This picture stays forever, but you might be able to change that if you want to use your squad pictures or anything. Next thing is the weather, and the weather is pretty cool. I already played a little bit with that. I forgot to mention also the when importing a MIS file, you can actually import the weather at the same time. So it does import the weather at the same time. If you already define weather in your mission editor, then it shows here. It's just nicer. So as you can see, I already played. You have the 3 layers of wind here. So whatever you're doing on the wind will show with the standard symbology. Okay, so you have the 10 knots increments. Does it work if you go? Yeah, it works. Okay, really a lot of wind. Cloud base and thickness and coverage, usual thing. So. Do you have rain? Do you don't have rain? Do you have fog? So the fog, it varies. The symbol here varies according to the visibility. So here you have a very crappy visibility, but if you're improving the visibility, you can see the layer of fog getting dim, and also the symbol for fog between a very thick fog where you have those 3 lines and less thick fog when you have 2 lines and 1 line. Okay, you cannot have 2 lines here. Changing turbulences from light to severe. Okay. Temperature, QNH, very standard thing, but as you can see here, the mirror, so the way in real life what you will get as a weather situation is automatically generated, and it's really awesome. And this type of matter will be put into the mission file. So whatever you're going to do with your mission briefing, you'll get this line automatically inserted into your weather briefing. You can also save the whole thing here as a picture and insert that into your briefing or into your PowerPoint slides or whatever you're using for briefings. Okay, the MPI, I'm not so sure about what it is, so I guess that's for high flyers here. I'm going to leave that. Kneeboard, I have to define a flight for it to work, but also pretty incredible. You can, once you have all your flights defined and the frequency and I don't know, whatever you need for your mission, you can simply export all this information as well as a flight log and everything into a kneeboard and have it displayed into the simulator. AGS-37, that's basically, again, I don't have the vegan, but my guess is you can create a flight plan and export that into a data cartridge that the vegan can use, so the navigation system the vegan can use. And last but not least, at least for us chopper pilots, is the way of exporting all the data you created into CombatFlite, but all the data I'm thinking about, you know, all the, I don't know, the front lines, the landing zones, the AAA threads, or the SAM threads and all this kind of thing. Everything you can draw on CombatFlite will be actually exported into the ABRIS and display on your K50. So, okay, going into the object tab, and there's a lot of things to say here. I hope I won't be too long, but this is probably the tab where you spend most of your time when you're doing your flight planning in CombatFlite. So either you're starting with an existing MIS file and you have all the flight plans already done here, or you're starting from scratch. Say if you're starting from scratch, you can add flights, and it's sorted by task and type of aircraft. So, you know, not every aircraft can do any task, obviously. If I'm going into things I know, for example, transport, and I have my MI8 here, basically the filters say transport by MI8 doesn't need any payload. Say I do want a payload, okay, I can ask whatever I want. It's going to be a flight of 2, flying for United States on the blue side. Okay, I go pick waypoints. I don't know, I'll be taking off from North Las Vegas. What you can see here is 76 degrees is the actual the direction of the sun. So if you're looking 76 degrees from at this time and this date, you'll be blinded by the sun. And I guess that's really important for cap and this kind of thing we're not really doing in helicopters, but that can be also useful for chopper missions. As soon as you're creating a waypoint here, I clicked on an airport, so it assumes I will be taking off. Standard stuff and new stuff also. As you can see, this is pretty much standard when you work in a mission editor. But there's a few new things, and I really don't have time to talk too much about that. But define altitude according to QNH or QFE. You can define time on target also. So you see, I'm going to insert a flight a point. I know I'm going to fly to this point, for example. Okay. All right. So default speed is a little bit high, 300 knots for an MI8. Maybe not. Gonna put 100 knots, and definitely not 15,000 feet. I always say okay, no more than 1,000. But 1,000 AGL, so that's a pretty cool thing because you can actually do some terrain following stuff, and once you define that, 100 knots true airspeed, don't care about the time on target. In that case, you see the tick marks every minute showing where you're supposed to be, the destination. You can change that name if you don't like it. That's waypoint 1, I don't know, ACP1. Okay. That's going to be your steer point. I can add my stuff here, insert waypoint. I'm going to, you know, to this place and back here. I can change all the stuff. These little things here allows you to copy, for example, in that case, say I like my 100 knots and 1,000 feet AGL. I'm going to use that on all the other waypoints, okay, for the altitude and for the speed. Okay, and normally I should see that, so no more 300 knots and 15,000 feet. Yeah, every other waypoint now he's having 1,000 feet and 100 knots, and that's pretty cool because you know, sometimes you're setting up some waypoints in the mission editor and you forgot to set up the altitude and the speed, and when you realize that, the only option is either to edit one by one every waypoint, or just remove the flight and do a new one with the correct altitude and speed. So super useful option here. Okay, I went a little bit crazy here. Nothing special. Sometimes when I think the you know, the names of the waypoint and the dog houses here, it can be a little bit big, but again, there's always an answer from Viper. So you go into option and you can make this a little bit smaller. Okay. I'm not gonna spend too much time here, but there's so many things. Going back into objects, you can draw circles, for example. I don't know, you know, like a very dangerous stuff here going on. So I'm adding a circle. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There you go. Adding a circle, I can click on this, change the name, you know, define the color. So you know, orange is probably not the most visible one. I'm gonna do red because it's super dangerous, so don't go there. Okay. I can fill it, I can define how transparent it is, the line style. I mean, basically any option you can think about is available on CombatFlite whenever it's about drawing stuff. And again, all your drawings you're going to do here will be exported. So I haven't tried on the vegan, but the Abris will actually show the lines and the circles. I'm going to add a polygon here. I don't know, like there's a lot of traffic here over Nellis, so I'm gonna add this, say guys don't go there because, you know, it's super dangerous and there's a crazy flyer. I'm make it a curve, or I'm making a line, or whatever I want. Change the color, fill, close, not close, anything you want. Orbits, I guess that's more for, we don't really do orbits in helicopters, but that's probably useful for fixed wing. So just to show you how it works, I mean, you can say I want to put an orbit here. So I'm selecting the points. It can be round, it can be whatever I want, and also I can. I have to click twice. There you go. And I can characterize. So I'm going into my layers here. I have a cap, so it's cap, but I can define a different types, okay? A hold, seeds, AWACS, whatever you want. And you put the altitude and all this kind of things. A crazy thing here, an overlay. So if you have a picture you want to put on top of the of your sectional or of your map here, you can insert a picture over your flight plan or whatever you want. Actually, obviously you can do some you know, having some text box. Adding ground units, so it's not it's limited to 4 colors, and you cannot characterize, so you cannot say this is a heavy tank, this is the AAA, but you can position here, you know, some stuff. You know that it's here. You can give a name, you can change the color, and all this kind of thing. All right, let's go to the next tab. Okay, the next tab is tools, and it is also pretty awesome. You see, I just made up a new type of flight plans, and I went a little bit crazy. I have my usual MI8s flying around Vegas, and some fixed wing also. So there you go. I don't need that. Okay. So there's some fixed wing guys flying over here. Okay, can I select that? Flight. There you go. All right, and my transport MI8 flying over on Vegas. Okay, here. In the tool things, pretty interesting things. Say, I don't know, I have some bad guys, or I have a JTAG guy sitting somewhere around, and I want to define the line of sight, see if he's going to see anything. So I can actually pick up a point. I don't know, I'm going to put this one, it's middle of the water, but it doesn't matter. Okay, and say I've got a bad guy here sitting 500 feet. I don't know how he's going to do that, but anyway, he's going to do that 500 feet above the water here, AGL, 60 feet observer, and I'm going to ask CombatFlite to calculate the line of sight here, whether in low and high resolution. Let's try high, okay, and calculate. So of course I use high, so it takes a little bit more time, and I put that into some pretty difficult terrain. So okay, you can see here, and it's pretty awesome. You can see that this guy sitting at 500 feet will have this type of line of sight. I'm going to change the color because it's not very easy to see. Okay, so I can define actually at which moment my flight will be in danger of being shot, for example, or I can put my JTAG guy and make sure that he'll be able to see my targets at any time and show that to me. So now we have the flight plans defined. I'm going back to my flights and selecting my MI8 flight. I'd like to come back on the mission tab and just show you a little bit of this new board function. Basically what it does is taking the flight plan you selected and generates a mission data card and a flight log and everything you need actually. So you can choose whatever items you want to generate, okay? And once you're happy with that, you can include image, you can include tons of stuff, ramrod, type of threats, you got the bullseye's coordinates. Everything you need to fly your mission can be either printed, you can generate a picture file, or you can directly insert that into your MIST file as an e-board. Okay, next thing in the tools is a terrain feature, which is really nice for chopper operations. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about first. But basically, it gives you a static view of if we had an AGPWS, for example, on board, that's what you'll get. So you get the elevation. I don't know, I want to plan my approach on this guy, and I want to be sure that my helicopter will be hidden somewhere. So I'd like to have a view exactly of this area, exactly in terms of elevation. Do we have a peak here? So I'm selecting this area, and I can see, for example, here we have some low-level areas and some elevation here. See, so it's really like a static EGPWS. You can leave that. Another thing that is really mind-blowing is the slope. So, and again, that's really for choppers. We I don't know, we're looking for some area to put a FORP, for example, or to land and pick up some guys anywhere in a difficult terrain, and we need to find the right place to pick up those guys. I'm going to use this also because it's kind of a difficult terrain, and I want to see if there's any area here that I can use to land and pick up my guys. So I'm going to select this area, and here you go. And everything that is in red basically is not suitable for a helicopter to land, and basically there's not a lot of green area, but in theory the green area will be suitable for us to land and not doing some crazy stuff, in that case to pick up guys or to put a farm, for example. Alright, another thing that is interesting is rehearsal. So I have two flights here. I can like if you're playing with time of target, for example, you can play with time of target and see how things work. So you can simulate how things are working. I'm going to put that on 16 or 64 times. Okay, oh, let's move that away. So there's a time provision for the takeoff, and then when it's taking off, you can see my vegan here. I guess I selected vegan to fly around, and my MI8 doing the same. So it's interesting for if you have some cooperative flights and different flights and you need to be on target at the same time, you can play with the time of target and the speed and the flight plan to see when your flights will be joining in this given area, whatever. I mean, you can simulate whatever you want and see how things are working in real time, or of course in fast forward time. Amazing. Okay, rehearsal, snapshot, self-explanatory. Take a snapshot of whatever you want in CombatFlite and export it as a PNG, I think. Portrait or landscape. A small tool for conversion. So, you know, we always have this issue between Russian aircraft and American aircraft using knots, using kph, using feet or using meters. So here you are. Same for the conversion. The pressure is always a nightmare between hectopascal, pascal, inch of mercury, and all this kind of thing. So you can do all your calculation here. The electronic intelligence library, again, I'm not so good at talking about this, but you can see basically the characteristic of all the different threats of for whether it's radars or all this kind of thing. Okay, and I have no, I'm not good enough to talk about this, so I'll let you guys have a look at it, but I don't know exactly how it works. Alright, last thing is the in the tools is vertical profile, and again, I can only think about how cool it is for helicopters, for example, making sure if you're doing some terrain following, but I guess, you know, it's applicable also to fixed wing, some close air support and everything, but basically, okay, going back to flights, I'm selecting my Mi-8 flight and just making sure I've got my waypoint set up right. So starting up 2,000 feet from North Las Vegas, that's the altitude of the airport, and then I'm all flying 1,000 feet AGL to all the waypoints until Henderson, 1,500 feet AGL, and then release points in 1,000 feet AGL. Okay, right. So it's all set up. I'm looking at my vertical profile, clicking. Whoa, here you go. Vertical profile, and you can see from all the different waypoints. So you have the waypoints here: CP1 to Henderson and back to North Las Vegas. You have the minimum altitude for this flight. It's all customizable, and of course you can save it as a PNG. So if you want to put it into your briefing in a PowerPoint or anything, you can easily do that. It's all built in, and you can see my trajectory here. So hopefully, you know, I'm not hitting anything. No, that's fine. Okay. So awesome tool. Love everything here. Vertical profile, slope, terrain, line of sight. It's crazy. It's crazy. And okay, let's go really quickly because I realize this video is getting a little bit long. But in the options, I'm not going to go through all the options. Just the things I really like. I mean, if you don't want to use a sectional, you can actually switch to the Bing's map. So you know, that gives you kind of a Google Earth type of view on the on your flight plan. So whether you want to use sectional or you want to use the kind of Google Earth like view, you can do that. And back, okay, to sectional, or if you don't want to show anything at all, but I don't see the point. FA sectional, you can have it grayscale also. So there's different theme. You can apply some different feelings about you. If you're flying World War II aircraft, for example, you don't want something to look like too much modern. So you can apply themes on CombatFlite that makes your briefings and your map and your charts and everything looks like a World War II type of thing. We're gonna skip that. Short terrain. Oh, short terrain. That's pretty cool. Well, that's the kind of same thing than the one we've seen here on the terrain, but it's gonna show you. So let me select transport, short terrain along route. Okay, that gives you a corridor. So it's pretty large here, but you can modify that. That lets you see the terrain around your flight plan. I don't know what is the width of the corridor. But anyway, if you're flying a little bit too close to mountains and if it's getting dangerous for you, you will see that. Okay, so for example, here I'm turning ACP4 and turning right. I'm just pointing this area here. Okay, again, awesome for helicopters, but for any low-flying aircraft also. I was telling you can change the units. You got about every unit you want here. If you don't like nautical miles and knots, that's fine. And one last thing I really want to show is the Google Earth link up. So let me set up a few things. I need to change the configuration here, and I'm going to show you how it works. All right, so I just resized a little bit here, launching Google Earth, and as you see, there's a way to create a dynamic link between CombatFlite and Google Earth. By activating the Google Earth link up here, as you can see, all the stuff I've been working on with CombatFlite is showing up on Google Earth. So I got my flight plan, I got all my stuff here, my areas, my patterns, my polygons, my circles, my different flights, and crazy thing is, because you can set up whatever update rate on the link. I set up a 1 second update rate, for example. Whatever I'm modifying here in CombatFlite actually shows on Google Earth. And the interesting part, if you got a large enough screen, is you can have one window with CombatFlite and one window with Google Earth, and actually see in 3D how your flight is going to look like, taking into account, you know, all the terrain and all this kind of thing. Okay, and you can even do some flights. You know, you're using the flight simulator built in Google Earth, and actually fly and simulate your flight, so you can prepare your approach, you can prepare your attack based on Google Earth. And I think it is awesome. And I think that's also the end of my demonstration. I've been really quick. I know it's a long video, but there's so many things with this CombatFlite. Probably the question you're asking yourself, and maybe you have seen that, is it going to be freeware, it's going to be shareware, it's going to be payware? Viper is still thinking about it. I've seen everything is provisioned for a license type of thing, so it might be a payware software. But Viper will be taking this decision after, well, just before release of the final version. So there's a licensing system in place. Will it be used? I don't know. But if it's a payware, I think it's definitely worth it, because that's part of the few software that you can use in DCS that will really make a difference when it comes to create briefings and prepare your flight. Okay guys, hope you enjoy the demo, and talk to you next time.